Hey kids, Dad coming to you from the shed. A lot of my videos I know are about personal growth, personal development, developing your philosophy. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit more personal about who I am and do something that I tried to get my father to do before he passed away, actually relatively close to when he passed away, and that was to talk about his past. I bought him a tape recorder and I actually asked him to record just thoughts from as far back as he could go because he was an excellent storyteller. And I spent a lot of time as a kid with my dad in the car and listening to his stories, and I loved it. You don't get maybe as much time in the car with me as I did with my dad to hear stories. So I thought I'd just leave some for you. Let's see, man, where to start? I don't know. I mean, obviously, I grew up in Colorado Springs, just like you guys. We were not a wealthy family, but we were not a poor family. My dad and mom worked together and they always found a way to provide. I would say growing up, I felt secure, even though as I got older, I was able to find things out that, they struggled at times, like most people, I think, do. And so, but they always got up, they always went to work, and they always made it go. So, not coming from a majorly advantaged background, but always having good supporting parents. As I transitioned into adulthood, I sort of got to a point in life where I'm like, what am I going to do? And I started looking around. I remember I couldn't be more than 16 years old, which is thinking maybe a little early what you're going to be. And I always had kind of that interest in the military. I've always felt like a warrior, I guess. And so where do you go if you want to be a warrior? And that's the military. So I signed up for the United States Army after making an inquiry. When you make any kind of inquiry in the military, it goes to a lot of recruiters and they kind of come out and try to connect with you. And I ended up getting a recruiting coming over. I think I must have been 16, close to 17, and found out that they had a program that would get you into the military even before you're out of high school. And a program called the Split Off Program, where I went to basic training in the summer between my junior and senior year in high school. And then after high school, I would go to what they call the AIT, which is basically your skills training. Now, another piece of that, I was always thinking about college, was I also looked into what's ROTC in college, Reserve Officer Training Corps. And they are a program that's in conjunction with college. But let's just say I didn't have the grades that they generally looked for. Not that I couldn't have gotten those grades. I was always the kind of kid that I did what I needed to do to get through it, not necessarily to excel. Now, you guys excel, and I'm very proud of you for that. But that reflected in my grades. I'm a 3.0 student, not a 4.0 student. So the ROTC people also recommended maybe I could go this program, and then being enlisted would be a leg up of getting into the ROTC program. So went into the military and gave it my all in basic training, gave my all in the skills training after. But I kind of discovered in my experience in the military something about myself, and that's I don't like to be told what to do unless the person telling me what to do can really justify that it makes sense and doesn't just tell me something to do without being involved. And that's probably a leadership scale thing, right? Not all people that are leaders in any organization, like the military, are good skilled leaders. So anyway, it wasn't the path that I would have thought it would have been, which was going full-bore military for a career. And then I discovered, because of my training, which the second half of my training after graduating high school kept me too long to start my first semester of college. And so I came back from the military training. I'm out of high school and I'm kind of like, well, what do I do? And my father, being in real estate, said, well, you could get a real estate license and you could do a little bit with me before you start college. Wasn't something I ever had thought about, ever had looked into. And so I went to classes. At the time it was maybe a month long of classes, and took the test and got a real estate license. And the really cool thing is I caught my father at a point in his career where he was kind of going for a big goal for him. He was in process of trying to help a guy who owned a horse track south of Colorado Springs that he read about in the newspaper who was struggling. And he reached out to him and he said, do you mind if I see if we can put a racetrack there? Now, I'll tell another story about this one another time, about his background. But he was in the process of working through this big deal for him. And I got to tag along. And that was an amazing experience. I got really big eyes because where he was working with people, we're talking about really big dollars. And I thought, this is where I want to be. It was a tuning fork moment sitting there. I like big, interesting things that have big rewards, which sometimes is a failure in other areas of my life, but we'll talk about that at another time as well. But anyway, it was something that really caught my attention. And so I kind of kept following along with it while I was going in school. I would even say it helped shape my path in school, in that I ended up in the business school and in marketing and things like that. But I worked all the way through. As I was coming out of school, and I met your mom in school, and the reality of coming out of school and kind of like having to support full-time work, it became apparent to me that I couldn't work under my father because his big deals worked great for him, but they were primarily his income to support him. I was getting a piece of that. And I needed transactions that would close on a regular basis. So selling homes in a residential company made a lot of sense. So I started to transition. It didn't go smoothly at first. I will say I worked with some family of ours who kind of screwed me over, and I got sort of a bad taste in my mouth. And I thought, all right, I'm going to go try something else. And I didn't know what to try. I needed cash. I ended up going to sell cars, of all things, which is a very easy thing to get involved with. And it taught me a lot. I only did it for a week, but believe it or not, it taught me a lot about just going out and going after any kind of business you needed to survive. I got recruited back into real estate by a guy that I knew who had his own company, and really the rest is history from there. He kind of set me up. I linked up additionally with other mentors, and I started selling homes. And it was a lot of up and down for many years. It still is, let's be honest. You know, it's the kind of business that sometimes you do very, very well, and sometimes you don't do as well, but I'm still in it. It's provided me a lot of different opportunities in our lives. I've had amazing financial years. I've had not so amazing financial years, but for who I am and the freedom that I seek as a human being, it does give me a lot of that. But it also does come with a lot of pressure. So, and I think that's been good for me. So anyway, that's a little insight into your dad. Hope you enjoyed it. Love you. Talk to you later.